Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another live stream. And on Sunday afternoon, it's the big one. Chelsea versus Arsenal at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League. Top versus sixth. Normally it'd be Chelsea top, Arsenal sixth, but this season, Mikel Arteta's boys are top of the table. Chelsea kind of languishing and down in unfamiliar territory in sixth place. It's a massive game. Only a couple league games to go into the World Cup's done. We need to try and bridge that gap to the top of the table. And Arsenal, I think realistically, probably going to be both challenging for that top four position. So a win is going to be really important. But Chelsea haven't actually beaten Arsenal at Stamford Bridge since Maurizio Sarri was in charge, back with a 3-2 win, I think, in 2017, I believe it was. So, yeah, it's been a while since we've beaten Arsenal at the Bridge. Obviously, lots to get into. Unfortunately, Kepa injured now until after the World Cup, so he's going to miss the next 3 games. Kovacic back in training, so some pluses for Chelsea. Obviously, the disappointment of Ben Chilwell missing. Will we go? Will that force us to go the back four, or we still stick with the 3? There's plenty to get stuck into. And for the big game, delighted to get Luke Webb, Arsenal fan, on for the Arsenal perspective. Webby, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. I don't think you would have expected, mate, to be sitting here in November with Arsenal sitting top of the league. It's been, having had the disappointment of obviously missing out on the top 4 in the last couple of games of last season. It's been quite some turnaround, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, mate. I don't think even the most optimistic Arsenal fan would have thought we'd be top of the league with 2 league games till the international break. So it's been brilliant. And look, Arteta said since the day started, it's a process, it's a project, it's going to take time. He's overhauled the squad, he's brought in the young players, and we're reaping the rewards now, I guess. We've played some fantastic football. We've also ground out some results when we've not played well, and it's put us in a really good stead. I think at the beginning of the season, everyone wanted top 4, and we're really setting ourselves up well for that, because even if we do have a drop off, we're building up a nice buffer to 5th. So to be at the top is fantastic, and good test on Sunday, huge game.
I mean, what do you think's changed? Because obviously, like, Arteta's come in for some criticism, quite vocal at times during his tenure. A lot of fan base was very divided. A lot of people wanting him gone. But it's really turned around. Obviously, should have come 4th last season. It didn't happen. It could have been really easy for heads to dip and it be a struggle at the start of this season to get up for it again after having the disappointment at the back end of last season. What do you think's changed this season? I know Arteta's kind of been there. What is his 3rd season now, is it? I think it could be his 3rd or maybe 4th. I don't know. No, 3rd, I think. 3rd season. And, he's been backed by Edu in the transfer market. That's one thing that Arsenal fans, I guess, have moaned about in the past, is not really getting investment from the Glazers. I think Edu's done a fantastic job as technical director. What do you think has changed? I mean, do you think it's just down to business in the transfer market? What do you put it down to?
I don't think there's been any overnight change as such. We've been working for a long time under Arteta, and he slowly and gradually got rid of some players, one of which we'll probably talk about today, and got in other players that he sees fits his system a bit more. So Arteta has always wanted to play similar to the Manchester City system, right, with 4 at the back and then your technical midfielders, an attacker and two really good wide players. We've never really been able to do it until this season because we haven't had the players to fit in. So filling those positions, and I think this transfer window or the transfer window in the summer just gone was vital. I think the players in the squad talk about Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus as just raising the standard, and they came in early season. You could tell that the other players had lifted their level, and you only got to look at some of the likes of Granit Xhaka and the improvement in performance. I think a lot of that has definitely got to be down to the caliber of players that are in the squad now. So some really, really good business in the transfer market. I think it's pretty common consensus even amongst Arsenal's rivals that we've been really good in recent transfer windows. And you've got the likes of Ben White now performing week in, week out, and for a player like him, where at one point we were getting mocked for spending over too much money on him, I think it looks like a bargain, and most teams have taken. So some really good transfer business, some really good coaching from Arteta, and having the right players to fit a system has kind of got to where we are, I think.
It's an interesting thing because just on managers, obviously for us now, Graham Potter's coming. He's been here for a couple of months. It's kind of the first time that Chelsea, and well, could really argue in the last 20 years, have gone down what you might call a like sort of quote unquote gone down the project manager route. It's not normally we're associated. We go the big name, come in for between 2 and 3 years, win a few trophies, and then get sacked inevitably. That's what's happened, and it's brought us success. But I think now, that with the new owners coming in, that's got to change. And they've appointed Graham Potter, like a very like an up and coming coach, very talented. He's taken the long route round. He deserves his chance at the top. I think it's really good and refreshing to see a British manager getting an opportunity at a top club, because it just doesn't happen. So that's great. But with that comes added pressure, but also the fact that, you know, he's going to have to be given time, and that's something that Chelsea managers aren't necessarily given, and that's something that fans are going to have to be patient with, and maybe have to slightly readjust our expectations. Obviously, at Arsenal, you know, you've been through that with Arteta. How different is it kind of having sort of like a quote unquote project manager and, you know, not getting frustrated, pissed off as fans? I know it's like football's emotional. You're going to get annoyed, and, you know, people might call for the manager with a run of bad results. But I think Arsenal are showing that if you do back the manager, give them time, you know, something can be built. And I think that's something that's going to happen at Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, there's been probably 2 real occasions. Firstly, back when we had a terrible run up to Christmas before we beat Chelsea on Boxing Day, when we introduced Smith and Saka a couple of years ago. That run, and then obviously missing out on Champions League last season, there was definitely plenty of the Arsenal fan base that were calling for Arteta. Now, you get that at all clubs, that's fair. I think you're absolutely right. If you look at where Chelsea are now, obviously I'm sat on my high horse with Arsenal top of the league a bit, but the Arsenal model is kind of what you're aiming for, right? You get in a young, really exciting, forward-thinking, progressive, exciting manager in Graham Potter. You develop your young players, you make some really shrewd signings, and essentially that keeps you hopefully at the top of the game for a long period of time, rather than what Chelsea have done and just recycle manager, success, failure, next manager. So it's going to be challenging for Chelsea fans, because I think your fan base are probably a bit more expecting and maybe more entitled than others, because you've just consistently won trophies, and when you haven't won trophies, you've just brought the players in and brought the new manager in to win more trophies. That might not happen, especially with Arsenal developing really well. Obviously, the powerhouse of Man City, Liverpool, I'm sure, will bounce back, and the competition. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, I would absolutely love to see a Chelsea meltdown and sack Potter in 6 months' time, but I don't think it's going to happen. He's going to be back now, isn't he? They've gone down that route. Once you commit to it, you've got to give him the time.
Yeah, I mean, like as I said, it's brought success in the past, but in the last 20 years, the longest serving manager has been Mourinho, 2.5 years. That sort of model that isn't sustainable anymore. And I think, you know, when you look at the sort of the benchmark, City and Liverpool to a certain extent, I know they've only won 1 league, but they've been the 2 standout teams in the league. You know, they've continuity of the manager, 5, 6, 7 seasons. You know, they've had time to bed their ideas in, and the squad is all their signings, and that makes a massive difference. And I think now at Chelsea, you know, when a new manager comes in, you've got 2 or 3 managers worth of players. You know, you come in, you might not want half of them. So now that Potter's been given the keys, you know, he's going to be backed by Bowley. We're going to spend big money. Players are going to come in. It's just about trusting that process and letting it do its thing. But it's tricky though, because I mean, we might not come top 4 this season. And I've spoken to Chelsea fans, and they think that's unacceptable. But I think we have to slightly readjust our expectations. Yes, it's not really acceptable for Chelsea to finish outside the top 4, but if we finish outside the top 4 and it means in the next couple of seasons we're challenging for the Premier League, then maybe that's a bit of a trade-off that we kind of have to find. But I don't think we can, like, obviously, I'm not saying to change the standards at the club. We should always be demanding to win trophies every season, but I think we may have to kind of slightly readjust our expectations. And, you know, myself and other sections of the fan base, you know, all we've ever grown up with is Chelsea winning stuff. So you're kind of like, you're quite spoilt in a way.
Yeah, I just think where Chelsea have made a mistake and what might put Potter back is, like, why did you let they go and make those signings with Tuchel in charge, and then change the manager so quickly. Like, surely if they were going to go down this project manager route, they could have identified that in the summer and gone after Potter then. Like, I know Tuchel didn't, I guess his results dropped off. You probably know, like, I'm not fully invested in Chelsea, but I think it's going to take a bit of time, because obviously you've got players like, well, let's use Aubameyang as the perfect example. I'm sure he'll still contribute for you some stuff, but I do not think Graham Potter would have looked in any transfer window and gone, I'll tell you what, I'm going to sign Aubameyang.
No.
And that's exactly what happened at Arsenal when Arteta came in. Like, and it took time to clear out those players. And that's the problem. You need to give Potter time to get the system and the players for the system he wants, right? Because until you get that, you're just using what you've got. And that's the challenge we had. I think at Chelsea, the money's not the issue, right? You've got the money available and the backing. So I'd have thought in January, Potter will start to leave his stamp on the squad. But I don't know. I just think with Chelsea, man, like the signings you've made, you top four. You've got anything.
No, we have to come top four. Yeah.
If you miss out on it, you miss out on it. But
someone big's gonna miss out. Like they have to.
Yeah.
There's not enough spaces for the amount of teams that are competing for it. You know, you look at like Tottenham are doing. I know Tottenham aren't particularly playing good football, but they're picking up the results. Arsenal are doing well. City are obviously going to be there. Liverpool get themselves together. United slightly getting themselves together now under Ten Hag. You know, there's about 7 clubs that are going for that top 4. But there's only 4 spaces available, so someone big's going to miss out. But I mean, just rounding out on the managers. What are your thoughts on Graham Potter and him being given the Chelsea job? I mean, what do you make of him as a manager?
Yeah, I think he's a great manager. We came across him at Arsenal when we played.
The Swedish team,
yeah. And I think we saw Austin Sims' name and no one had heard of them, and just thought we'd roll them over, and they were a really good team. And so first came across him then and heard about this English manager that was over there doing bits. So I think it's a really good appointment. I would have quite liked to see him get the England job, because I don't think Southgate should be England manager, and we won't get to that now.
I agree.
I'd have really liked to see Potter get that, because I really rate him. So I think he's a fantastic manager. And he will do well at Chelsea. There's no doubt. With the money available and a good resource now, he'll do well at Chelsea. I think the only struggle could be if he does go through a dodgy run and the fan pressure comes on, and all of a sudden it's not Brighton where you can kind of, I suppose the expectation's not as high. If he does come under a bit of pressure, it's going to be huge pressure. But in terms of the way he plays. You only have to watch how he got Brighton playing. He took them from the bottom to a really strong base. So yeah, I think he's a fantastic manager.
Yeah, no, I think he will be given the time, but that's the key thing. When you go on a bad run of results, and we will go on a bad run of results, it will happen. It's how the board keep their nerve, and I think they will, because otherwise it looks pretty embarrassing to offer a manager a 5-year contract, call it the big project and that, and then get rid of him like, you know, whatever it is, a year later. So it depends, but things do change. But let's get more to the game itself, mate. And one player that's kind of dominating the headlines in the build-up, Aubameyang, obviously former Arsenal captain, won a couple of golden boots at the Emirates, played really well for the Gunners, went to Barcelona. Left in acrimonious circumstances, whether you believe Aubameyang's side of events or Arteta's, I guess open to interpretation. What are your thoughts on Aubameyang in a blue shirt now? Because I know he didn't go directly to Chelsea, he went via Barcelona, but that was only kind of a 6-month stop-off. Well, first of all, what did you make of the fallout of him eventually leaving Arsenal? I guess that now in the long run, it looks like a good decision. But what are your thoughts overall on that? And then him subsequently turning up at Chelsea?
Yeah, I think the fallout was very hard to understand for a while, because he was, as I said, he'd performed well for Arsenal for quite a while, and he just dropped out of the team. I remember I can't remember who they were playing, but it was a home game, and he was just left out, and Arteta said wouldn't give the reason why, and it created all this. And now it's come out in the wash, and I think it's pretty clear now. You look at the squad now, how disciplined they are, how they work so hard, how they're all so close. They're obviously very disciplined, and it was clear that Aubameyang just didn't meet standards, right? Turning up late, acting as an individual, not meeting standards that were set by the management. And I'm pretty sure, well, I say I'm pretty sure, I know that he was flagged up on it by the club a number of times, and it clearly just got to the stage where he wasn't adhering to what the manager wanted. So what can you do? And I think it's justified for Arsenal now because, as I said, we're in such a fantastic position, and we've signed Gabriel Jesus, and Ketia's developing as well. In terms of ending up at Chelsea, I just don't care. Like, some players, like when Cesc left, right, and then when Cesc went to Chelsea, it made me feel sick. and then Nasri going to City, and Van Persie going to United. They hurt, right? Back in the day, they hurt. Aubameyang going to Chelsea, like I haven't really thought about it too much, mate. And that probably goes to show how his relationship with the Arsenal fans dropped off a lot towards the end of his Arsenal career. Look, he was a fantastic goal scorer for us for quite a while. He won the Golden Boot, didn't he? And and there's no doubting his talent, but he has got a bit of a history at falling out with clubs. At Dortmund, he down tools a bit. At Arsenal, he down tools. I think with Aubameyang, you've just got to try and maximise his ability while you've got him, because you can't question his goal scoring ability. He's done it consistently in a lot of leagues. But yeah, not too fussed about him at Chelsea, to be honest. Although if he scores on Sunday, that will change.
Mate, that would just, I'd love it if he nets on Sunday, and then if we get the flip celebration, or he does like or he does an Adebayor and he just goes and celebrates right in front of the fans or in front of Arteta. Mate, it would be unbelievable. But I don't know. What do you
think of it? What do you think of him so far? Because he's had a bit of role.
I don't know, to be honest, mate. I think like we needed a striker, and obviously I think it's fair to say that Tuchel was instrumental in bringing him in, because Graham Potter certainly wouldn't have looked at him. Obviously, he played one game under Tuchel, and then Tuchel was sacked. First few games he was poor, but he wasn't fit. He was playing with that mask. You tell he was playing within himself because of that. Obviously, the damage from that robbery out in Barcelona. He's had a good run where he scored on 3 games in a row. But recently, if he's not scoring goals, he's not really contributing very much now. He's very much, I think, one of those guys now. I was there on Wednesday night against Zagreb, and he was playing wide left, and he played wide left when he come on against Brighton, and he's done that in his career. But I think at 34 years of age, that for me is not the best use of him. You just want him in the box, and then you want the service into the box, and you want his predatory instinct and finishing ability to stick it away when the ball arrives for him. So I don't know. It's at the end of the day, it's a stopgap for me. Realistically, he'll contribute this season in some way or another, and then in the summer, Nkunku will arrive. We may well get Rafael Leao. Who knows? We might try and get someone else.
He's a good player, man.
Yeah,
Leao.
Yeah, and you look at anything, right? Nkunku virtually done. So that's another one in that pushes Aubameyang further down. You've still got Armando Broja, who should develop more this season, who's got way more of a future than Aubameyang does. You then got maybe Kai Havertz if he's still here, if he can get himself together. And then I said Nkunku, maybe Rafa Leao. There's loads of options here. So for me, Aubameyang, I think he'll already start to be phased out in the summer. I think he literally very much could be a one-season thing, or at tops 2, but it'll be a squad player. It'll be a rotational player next season. I think it's okay to get us by, but it's not kind of optimal for what we're looking for. But I think, again, it's like if you give him the service, then he will score. It's just, can we give him enough service for him to stick enough goals away to kind of win us enough games? That's sort of the big thing. I mean, mate, lastly on Aubameyang, thoughts on I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter, the promo clip for the weekend's game of him, saying I'm a blue in the blue shirt. It's not gone down particularly well with Arsenal fans. I mean, I presume you're not really too fussed from what you said earlier.
Mate, he's probably just been told to do it by BT Sport, hasn't he? Like, I don't know. I think the media are like trying to force this like massive rivalry thing between Aubameyang and Arteta and Arsenal. I don't think it exists. Like yeah, they probably fell out, but as I said, I know what BT Sport want to see. They want to see Aubameyang score against his old club at Stamford Bridge and Big Selly and question Arteta, but I don't think Arsenal are that bothered, mate. Like, Arsenal just be focused on the game. And yeah, as I said, I've seen the promo, and then you get Xhaka going, who was that? But
I mean, lastly on Aubameyang, mate, before we move on, expecting to receive a bad reception from the Arsenal fans on Sunday?
Yeah, I'd have thought so. I think I say Arsenal fans don't care about, but if you go around like a couple of days before a game doing interviews with the media about your old club, then yeah, people are gonna call you unpleasant things. So I don't think he'll be greeted friendly.
Nah, fair enough. I mean, it certainly get a lot more unfriendly if he scores on Sunday. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But from Arsenal strikers past to Arsenal strikers present, obviously you've got Gabriel Jesus through the door in the summer. Had a really good start. I mean, I personally would have preferred him at Chelsea rather than Raheem Sterling, just because of the fact he offers more goals than Sterling does. I would have preferred to have Jesus instead. Started really well. It's added an extra dimension to Arsenal's attack for sure, but how concerned are you, mate, that he hasn't scored, I believe, in his last 8 games? Is that a concern for you? Or, I mean, because I've seen Arteta saying that he doesn't mind too much because he's still contributing assists and contributing in other ways. But as a main centre forward, does it worry you that he's gone 8 games without a goal? And what have you made of his overall impact?
Yeah, his overall impact's been immense. He's been a leader. He's completely changed the way the team play, and he's taken us to a new level. 3 assists against Forest. He's been, even though he didn't score, his overall performance and the way he's playing, it literally can't be questioned. I've watched him pretty well. I've watched Arsenal every game, and he has been top draw. He is an absolute cut above. Obviously, yeah, no 8 games, and it's the same with Nketiah as well. I don't know if it's a cause for concern. Like, he's going to score eventually. He's getting in the right positions, and look, Arsenal are scoring and Arsenal are winning. So it's not too much of a problem. But he will be desperate to score, and you can tell that the way the last 10 minutes against Forest and the time he was on the pitch yesterday, he's getting increasingly frustrated when he's missing chances. So hopefully he just stays relaxed in front of goal, because you don't want him starting to snatch at it. But I'm not particularly worried, just because he is playing so well. He's the kind of player, even if he's not scoring, he's still contributing to the team. And I'm sure he'll score on Sunday. So,
mate, he probably will. He doesn't score for 8 games. We're kind of charity FC. When someone's on a goal drought or whatever, play Chelsea and you're guaranteed to score. So, I'd almost be certain that he'll probably score on Sunday. But he's a top player, and he's definitely made a big difference. Added a new dimension. I mean, more onto the game itself, mate. Where for you, for myself, from a Chelsea perspective, this is must win for us, given the fact we haven't won in our last 3 Premier League games. We're already in 6th place. We can't afford to drop any more points off the top 4 and drop further into the pack. But from an Arsenal perspective, is this for you, mate? I know you 1 point clear at the top after losing, 2 points in there, maybe 2 points. I can't remember, 1 or 2 points. Is this must win for Arsenal, or would you be quite happy? Are you just happy to just not lose this one?
No, I don't. It's certainly not must win. Like, in the context of the season,
yeah.
Like, we're top by 2 points. Like, our goal is to secure top 4 and take the title. Like, stay at the top and stay in the top 2 or 3 as long as we can. Like, if you look at it purely from a numbers point of view, it's not a must win game. But it's a London derby. It's Chelsea away. It absolutely is a must win in that context. You know, when you play your biggest rivals, Arsenal, whether it's Spurs, Chelsea, United, the big teams, you want to win them all. I think the way we've been playing, and Chelsea with a few injuries, and our recent record at Stamford Bridge, I'd like to think we go in with the absolute belief that we'll take all 3 points. The level we've been playing at, I think anything less than that is negative. But I reckon there's still a few Arsenal fans, if you did offer them a point on Sunday, probably shake your hand, beat Wolves, and head off to the international break. But no, it's the London derby, man. Chelsea away for Arsenal. You want to win
massive.
them, and we have done the last two seasons.
Last two.
So I think 3 in a row would break some record. I read it on Twitter. There was some record about.
Mate, we need to beat you boys at the Bridge. It's been so long. Like 2017, I think under Sarri was the last time we won there. Last 2 seasons have been dreadful. I mean, a couple of seasons ago, we gifted you the goal with Jorginho's ridiculous back pass. Last season, Nketiah turned into prime Mbappe, got himself a new 5-year deal for 100k a week, and has done nothing since. And probably Jesus will end his 8-game goal drought. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens in that regard. But from a Chelsea perspective, mate, what players worry you the most? Who from your perspective do Arsenal need to kind of keep quiet to ensure that they kind of have a good game?
I'd usually just say the fullback.
We haven't got any.
You haven't got any. So
we got Cucurella.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, Chilwell's injury is a blow. Obviously, James is quality, but obviously they're injured. So I don't know. Obviously, your mainstay players like Mount's always a top quality player and can score or assist on his day when he's playing well. But yeah, other than that, I mean, Aubameyang. I'm not looking at Aubameyang like worried as such. Like, he could have a day out, but I don't think he's got the yard of pace he used to. And I certainly think there's areas that we can exploit in the Chelsea team. Like, I think it's fair to say, with the injuries Chelsea have got, like, you're gonna have to click and you have to play well to beat Arsenal at the moment. And it's gonna have to be one of those games, I think, early kick-off, get the crowd going, get the crowd on side, get momentum, break Arsenal down. That's how you would potentially win the game. I'm not necessarily thinking it's going to be an individual player that Arsenal are scared of. It's going to be more like the atmosphere and the event, a London derby away. And if a couple of things go against you, a couple of refereeing decisions, and the momentum gets with Chelsea, get the first goal, that's when it can run away. From a player's point of view, I think we're the better team. I think we are in better form.
Oh yeah,
and we're in better shape. But that counts for nothing on the day, right? You've got to be bang up for it. The team that is bang up for it wins the first balls, and all that kind of stuff will win the game.
Yeah, no, certainly. I think the midfield battle is going to be really key as well. We've seen Chelsea light in midfield, got it wrong against United. We look much better, I think, at the moment with a 3-man midfield. Partey, Xhaka playing very well for Arsenal. I mean, you boys kind of go the 4-2-3-1 almost, don't you? With sort of Xhaka and Partey almost sitting with kind of Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli behind Jesus. Is that kind of give or take?
It's almost more Partey playing in the defensive midfield on his own, mate. Xhaka's been playing like this advanced left midfield position, like almost like a number 8 position.
Yeah.
He's almost solely been stripped of his defensive responsibilities, and he's just been given the license, and he's having a storming season. So Partey almost does that role, and then it's kind of defend from the front and really press well and win the ball back. But other than that, that's pretty much the system, and I'm sure we'll go into the teams that we think we picked in a minute. And I think Arsenal's 10 out of the 11 are
quite obvious. Mate, we might as well segue into the teams. We'll start with Arsenal. Let me just find it now. Is that going to be the one? Yeah, that's the one. I've got it set up as a 4-2-3-1, but that can change.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. What have you made of Aaron Ramsdale this season, mate? He's obviously number 1. Have you been impressed with how he's kind of pushed on from his kind of breakthrough season last year? Have you been impressed with him?
Yeah, he's done well. He's been solid. He's very good with the ball at his feet. He starts a lot of attacks for us. He's a leader. Couple of mistakes, but you're not going to find a goalkeeper that doesn't. And his personality is fantastic. He's clearly really influential in the dressing room. So yeah, he's been doing really well.
Yeah, so stick Ramsdale in. Who are you sticking at right back? Because we've seen obviously Tomiyasu. Is Tomiyasu still injured? But Ben White's been playing right
Yeah,
back, hasn't he?
yeah. Ben White will play right back. Tomiyasu has got an injury. We don't know the extent of it. He's very unlikely to be available Sunday, and he could even be out of the World Cup. But Ben White's played right back all season, and to be honest, has probably almost certainly played his way into the England squad. He's been probably in our top three best players this season.
I mean, particularly with a shortage of right backs at the moment for England as well, with obviously James down, Kyle Walker potentially down as well, Trent not really in favour. Like, there's an opportunity for White to even go to go and play as a right back potentially as well. But yeah, I think he's had a good season, and I got to be honest, as I said, mate, I was one of the people mocking the 50 million for him. And to be fair, it looks like it's turning out to be good value for money. But let's go to left back before we do the centre backs. Kieran Tierney was kind of the number one choice not so long ago. He seems to hardly be even third choice now. I mean, what before you pick your left back, what's kind of happened to Tierney, because he was so important for Arsenal a lot long ago, and he seems to have just dropped down the pecking order now on that left back slot.
Yeah, it's been a tough season for Tierney, and he's admitted that himself. But basically, Zinchenko took his place. So we signed Zinchenko, and Zinchenko became the first choice left back. Zinchenko got injured, and Arteta made a tactical switch against Liverpool and played Tomiyasu as a left back who inverted into midfield a lot, and it worked an absolute masterstroke at Liverpool, and it was a really good tactical win. We won the game. Tomiyasu was fantastic, and basically he's kept his place in the Premier League ever since then, playing as an inverted left back, if you like. It's harsh on Tierney because when you lose your spot to Zinchenko, and then you don't get back, you just don't automatically get back in the team. That's a killer. But on Sunday, obviously Tomiyasu unavailable. I would have thought Tierney will play. Obviously Zinchenko's flirting with fitness. He was on the bench on Thursday night, and you never know. Arteta could, if Zinchenko's fit, there's a chance he will start. But assuming Zinchenko's not fully up to speed yet, I would have thought Tierney will start.
Yeah, even though he played Thursday night, that doesn't really matter too much.
I don't think it matters. He hasn't played a lot of football this season compared to others because he's obviously been on the bench, and we've only got 2 games for the World Cup, so I don't think Arteta will be bothered.
No, fair enough. I mean, centre back partnership then. We go in with Gabriel and I've forgotten who else it is now. And Saliba, yeah. What have you made of Gabriel? Because he's come in for a bit of stick recently. I mean, his performances perhaps haven't been as good as they've been in the past, making a few mistakes, giving a few penalties away, and whatnot. What have you made of his performances? Because, I mean, I don't follow Arsenal as closely as you do, obviously, but he's kind of a few errors have crept into his game this season.
Yeah, mate. Well, I'll be honest. In terms of things I'm worried about at Arsenal, our centre backs are probably bottom, right? We've finally got a really good settled partnership. Gabriel, Saliba in the league. They play perfectly together. They complement each other. You've got cool, collected Saliba, and you've got passionate, aggressive Gabriel. I just think it's the way he plays, mate. He's a South American passionate. He really, really chucks himself into every game. He's very emotional, and that's one of his strengths. He is going to make mistakes every now and then. He's going to make some rash decisions, but I think you kind of accept that because he's a top player, and him and Saliba have got a really good partnership. Look, I'm sure Arteta will be working with him to iron the mistakes out of his game, but it's not a massive cause for concern, and certainly nothing that would question his place as our first choice centre back.
And how impressed have you been with Saliba? Obviously getting a lot of plaudits. He's had a couple seasons on loan. People weren't sure if he was going to play for Arsenal or not. He's come in this is his first season, isn't it? Playing for Arsenal. Yeah, I made that up. No, that is how impressed have you been with him? Because he has been performing to a high standard, and it looks like, you know, those seasons away on loan have helped him, and he looks a really good player.
Mate, he's a Rolls Royce player. He is top quality. He's so young. Like, I think Arsenal need to get him tied down to a new contract, because if not, he'll be playing for Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or PSG or Barcelona. He is top of the top, and if he stays injury free throughout his career, I would go as far as say he's going to go down as one of the great centre backs in kind of recent times. That kind of Rafael Varane, Virgil van Dijk type of player. I think he's so young. What is his age exactly? Is he 20 or 21? I'll have a quick
21.
Look.
He's about 20, 21,
yeah,
I think.
He's 21. So for a central defender, mate, to be doing what he's doing in the Premier League, top class. And
I mean, it's mad.
We sign into a long-term contract.
I mean, it's mad that St Etienne produced both him and Fofana, like both virtually the same age, and like now both top quality centre backs. That's quite some sort of youth team centre backs to be coming up together in Saliba and Fofana, and obviously both gone on for big money now and performing to a really high level. Midfield then, mate, kind of picks itself. Thomas Partey and Xhaka. How talking of sort of transformations, mate, what a transformation it's been for Granit Xhaka. I mean, not so long ago he was going to join Roma. It kind of fell through. He's had fans have booed him a lot. He's not really been the most popular at times with the fan base. Not really been regarded as kind of the best player, but he's now kind of seems to be a firm fan favourite at the moment once again. And his performance levels, he could be playing. I mean, you might correct me here, but he could be playing some of his best football of his Arsenal career at the moment.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It's probably not just his Arsenal career. He's playing the best football of his whole career. He's having an unbelievable season, and I think it's down to two things really. He's really comfortable in his environment. Arteta really backs him, and he's surrounded by really good players. But also the tactical shift. He's just playing further forward. So, as I said, Partey's sitting a bit deeper and playing as a deep midfielder, and Xhaka's just been given a bit more of a license, and he's got a really good left foot. He's got good vision. He's making the right runs, and we're benefiting from it because he's popping up. Often you'll see him, and you'll notice this on Sunday if we get into our flow. He'll pop up almost in the attacking left back position and be putting crosses in and cutting the ball back from the byline as a traditional overlapping left back would. So yeah, good for him. I'm pleased for him because it was tough. Yeah, no,
it's. I mean, not really nice for me to see, but like on a human perspective, it's nice to see him doing well and kind of repairing that damage of the fans. But as we move on to that front three, I just want to quickly touch on someone who probably isn't going to feature. I think he's been injured, but his form's kind of dropped off a little bit. What's happened to Emil Smith-Rowe recently? Because I know he's not been fit the entire time, but he was good last season. People were talking very highly of him. Can't really get in the Arsenal team at the moment. I mean, what are your thoughts on his current situation?
Mate, he's just been injured. To be fair, it's nothing to do. He's not been available since the beginning of the season, mate. It's long-term injury. Hopefully, he'll be back in the new year. It was a groin injury he got back in September, wasn't it? So that is the only reason. Otherwise, he would have been contributing to this team. Especially with the Europa League as well. As I said, you've seen firsthand he's scored a couple of goals against you over the last couple of seasons. He's a really good young player. Just a shame for him. That's the only reason that he hasn't been available for the whole season.
So who are you sticking down the right hand side? Is Saka fit?
Yeah, it'll be Saka on the right, and then Odegaard and Gabriel Martinelli.
I've got no idea how to spell it. I might just be like right like that. And then, mate,
and then Martinelli, yeah.
How impressed have you been with Martinelli? Because he's another one that came in as a youngster from Brazil. It's taken him a little bit of time to get going, but he seems to now have really established himself in that Arsenal setup, and he looks to be developing into a really good player.
Yeah, again, tenacious. Got that Brazilian flair. He works. His work rate is off the chart. And again, he's another one that hopefully he's come out this week and said that he just needs a pen to sign a new contract. I don't know if you saw that, but literally, if we don't get him on a long-term contract again, you could see him playing for Real Madrid. He's playing that well, and I'm sure any team in Europe would take him. So we need to get him signed down. He's a quality player, and so important for our team. And yeah, as his Brazilian teammate Gabriel Jesus up front.
Oh, mate, it's I've got to be honest. It's like it's a half decent team. That I mean, I can kind of see why Arsenal are doing well at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, definitely going to cause Chelsea problems. Are probably going to score. But let's take that one down. I'm going to switch
The thing is,
to
man, we haven't been playing well recently. Like
no.
we've been getting results, but we haven't been playing. Okay, Forest.
You beat
aside,
Forest
we
5.
absolutely pumped Forest.
Southampton was not great.
Southampton wasn't great. Leeds wasn't great. And Europa League, we've not played well
We
either.
haven't. Yeah, we didn't lose any of them though. You didn't lose any of them.
There you go. That's
the key thing. You didn't lose any of them. That's the most important thing. And I think that's, that goes to show, I think, for me, how Arsenal have kind of developed and grown, because those are games that Arsenal would have lost. Probably would have lost to Southampton in maybe last season or in years gone by. I think Arsenal are progressing. Let's bring the Chelsea team up then. Let's have a look what I've got, what I'm going to go with here. I mean, I'm kind of in two minds. I don't really know whether it should be whether it should be the 3 or the 5. I've got this set up as the 3. I think it's a big blow that Kepa's not available for this. Obviously, foot injury picked up against Brighton, and he's not going to play in any of the remaining games until the World Cup now. So we're going to have to stick Mendy in. I know Mendy's been good for us, but he's not been in the best form, and I just get a sense of nervousness when he's got the ball at his feet in the box. He's not good with his feet. His distribution's not great, but it's a big opportunity for him to try and do something, to try and get that number 1 spot back, because he's going to play the next 3 games in the run up to the World Cup, and let's kind of see what he can do. In terms of, I don't know, the thing with Arsenal's front line, I don't know, it could be better just to go over the 3, but then my only problem with that is, do we want Azpilicueta at right wing back with pace of Saka or Martinelli against an aging defender? It doesn't exactly fill me with confidence. I'm actually going to switch this up. I'm going to go with the 4. I mean, Webby, from an Arsenal perspective, like, it might not even matter, but would you prefer to play against a back 4 or a back 5, as it were?
Basically, mate, anything that isolates Saka against, is it Azpilicueta that would play right back?
Yeah, he'd have to.
Yeah, anything that would isolate. If you played a 4 and it isolates Saka against Azpilicueta, Saka's coming out on top there. Like, a lot of the time, he's so good 1-on-1. So if you can nullify that, then that stifles our game plan, and we'll switch over to Martinelli. But yeah, I'm not sure what I'd rather play against, to be honest. I think if you match us, I think really. Arsenal will back themselves. Yeah, I'd probably rather play against. I'd rather us get matched, because I think we could then go man for man, and I don't know how well we'd adapt to playing against the 3, but I don't think.
I mean, I'm going to go with the 4 just because I think, and I know Koulibaly's a top defender, but he played 60 odd minutes against Zagreb in the week first minutes for a number of weeks with an injury. I just think it's with the 4. I think it's just better with kind of the players that you've got available at the moment. It might not be optimal for Thiago Silva as much as a 3 would be, but he's still a top caliber defender in that position. And alongside him, he's got someone for me that I think at the moment is one of the best centre backs in the league in Trevor Chalobah. His form has been outstanding, and to think that we almost let him go in the summer on loan. Obviously, Fofana coming for big money, wasn't really featuring despite a really good season last season, kind of a breakthrough season in the first team. And he's kind of only in now because Fofana's picked up that injury, but he's taken his opportunity with both hands, and he's developing into a really top defender. And I do think he should be at least in the conversation to make the World Cup squad. I don't think there's many centre-backs that are better than Chalobah currently that are English. I just don't think there are. There might be a slight bit of bias in there. But, well, we just quickly on Chalobah from your perspective. I don't know how much you've seen of him, but what have you made of him?
Yeah, I said I haven't watched Chelsea masses this season, but I've obviously watched highlights and stuff, and he's having a really good season. Good. Any young centre-back is worth their weight in absolute gold. And like we were talking about with Saliba, if they can do it from a young age, what's Chalobah, 22, 23?
Yeah, not that old, yeah.
then they're just going to get better and better. So it's really good to see. It's really exciting to see young English centre backs come through. He's had so many loans, hasn't he? So they've obviously put him in good stead. And yeah, it's good for him as a player, good young player, and it's the kind of player that Potter and Chelsea need to invest in and build a team around to move forward, I think.
Yeah, I think we've got great options there now as well, with Fofana to come back as well. We've got Koulibaly experience, we've got Thiago Silva. Probably the one area that does really worry me is Azpilicueta. He's just not as good as he used to be anymore. He's gotten older. He's not playing as much football. Yes, but in fairness to him, this season, when he has played, he's not been that bad. But that's a definite worry, sort of Saka and Martinelli up against Azpilicueta. As you said, if they can isolate Azpilicueta, then it could be a field day. It could be a field day for them. But unfortunately, we haven't really got any other options, because in the flat four, we've got Reece James injured, and there's no other right back other than Azpilicueta. And then if we go with the back five, Aspie could play right wing back, or he could play Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Again, not really an optimal option there. So it's kind of the best we can do in that right back slot at the moment. I mean, the left back slot picks itself. Obviously, really unfortunate with Ben Chilwell getting that injury, but we go with Cucurella. I mean, Webby, do you like Cucurella? I mean, obviously City were interested, and they wouldn't pay the money. We obviously did pay the money for him. What are your thoughts on him? He's had a bit of a tricky start, but he's kind of finding his feet again in the team. I think he'll be much more comfortable playing left back rather than left centre back, where I think he's not looked the most comfortable in the last few games. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, like obviously City pushed crazily hard for him, didn't they? And I think if any player that City want that much is top quality. Like you said, he just ain't a left centre back. Like when he was so good for Brighton, bombing up the wing and being involved in attacking play, so good on the ball. So you need to pick him in his right position. I know it sounds so simple, but he's a left back, and he's an attacking left back as that. So get him in his right position, and I'm sure he'll obviously thrive under Potter. That's one that's worked out quite well, because they've got the relationship.
I mean, going into this midfield three, I mean, Dennis Zakaria finally made his debut on Wednesday night. Did really well, scored a goal. I don't think he's going to start. I'd be surprised if he started. He probably might have put himself in the window, but I would be shocked if he started this game. He might come on and make an impact from the bench. I think at the base of this midfield that I'm going with is going to be Jorginho. I think, control in the midfield is going to be really important. And Jorginho, despite his limits, he's good at what he is good at. He does very well, dictating the play from the centre of the park, controlling the midfield. That's what he does to a T. And obviously, when we didn't have him against Brighton, we got smashed and there was no control in the midfield. I'm not saying we would have won that game with him there, but we certainly would have had more control in the middle of the park. Ahead of him, I'm going to play Mateo Kovacic, I think our most important midfield player. I'm not sure if he's fully fit to start. I reckon if he's fit, he will play because he's so important to us. And then that other position, I mean, Loftus-Cheek's done well this season. I don't think he'll start tomorrow, though. Personally, in a number 8 position, I'll play Mason Mount. Again, another top player. Front three, I think left-hand side, Sterling will play, despite the fact that he's not been in the best of form. He did get back on the score sheet Wednesday night, but it's a big game. Sterling's a big game player, well, supposedly. We'll have to wait and see what he does. But he left City to join Chelsea because he wanted to be considered a main man. Well, Sunday would be as good a time as any to sort of start delivering in the big games for us. Webby, out of Sterling and Jesus, I know Arsenal have been linked with Sterling in the past. Are you glad that Arsenal got Jesus over Sterling?
Yes, I am. I wouldn't swap them. I think Jesus is just such a rounded player, right? So like we said, even if he's not scoring goals, he's raising the standard of other players. Sterling's an exceptional player, but like as you just touched on there, if he's not scoring goals, he can drift in and out of games, and yeah, I think Jesus has just been so good for us, mate. I wouldn't even consider swapping.
No, then we're going to go. I mean, I've slated him so much this season, but I think he's going to play, and I think Potter likes him. I mean, there's a shout for Christian Pulisic maybe, but I just know that Kai Havertz is going to play, and probably would just give him the nod. He's been in half decent form again. Maybe not his optimal position here, but this front three can all be fluid. And then we go with Aubameyang up front. I mean, I personally would maybe prefer Broja, but I don't think that will happen. I think he will play Aubameyang, and that three can kind of, can switch around. I mean, I don't know if I trust Chalobah at right back. I mean, is it better than Azpilicueta? I'm not really sure. Chalobah at right back, I don't know. I'm really not sure. But that front three for me is probably the best that we've got at the moment, which I don't know. For all the money we've spent, I don't know. It's not that great.
It's such a weird one because, like, at certain points in time, all of those front three have literally been like considered world class.
Yeah,
Havertz, world class young talent. Sterling has been world class for a long period with City, and Aubameyang at the top of his game. But it's almost like you put them together at a point where they're all a bit of an odd point in their career, but mate, on their day, they're still all top players.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. You look at that; it's not a bad team. I think, the right back is the worrying area, and I think whether it's a right wing back or a conventional right back in a four, that's going to be an area that Arsenal really look to target. Is isolating Azpilicueta. So Chalobah is going to have to do a lot of work to sort of cover in behind Azpilicueta, but I think in the midfield, it makes sense to go with the three, have a bit more control, maybe a bit more aggression in there. And then the front three just have to hope we create enough chances and they're on their game. But again, Chelsea's front three, it's a big problem, not really on their game on anywhere near enough occasions. But we'll have to hope on Sunday we can kind of get that first win against Arsenal at the Bridge since 2017. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I think that's the team that I'd go with. I think the only difference is whether it's going to be a 3 or a 4. But I think Potter, with what's available, will probably go with something pretty close to that. Last thing then, Webby, to round out, mate, score predictions. You've had last 2 wins at the Bridge. Are you back in Arsenal to make it 3 in a row?
Yeah, I've got to back Arsenal. Mate. Can't be sat top of the league and say we ain't going to win. So I think we've been keeping clean sheets, to be honest, away from home in the league, and I back us hopefully to maintain that. So I'm going to go 2-0 Arsenal.
Fair. I mean, if it finishes 2-0 Arsenal, there's going to be uproar in the Chelsea fan base. Mate, honestly, the Chelsea Twitter would be the worst place to be after the game if it finished. Mate, honestly, if we lost 2-0, I'd probably have to log off all social media for at least a week. Mate, it would be unbearable. But I suppose for Arsenal fans, could you imagine how bad it will be if Aubameyang scores and it's the winner?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, mate. I'm acting all confident, whatever, but mate, come Sunday, it literally all goes out the window. It all goes out the window, and it depends who turns up, doesn't it? So I don't think once that first whistle goes, although Arsenal might be favourites on paper going into the game, it means nothing really for me.
No, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, I can't say we're not going to win. Whether I feel we're going to win or is I don't think we will. But I can't sit here and say and back us to not win. So I think we can win 2-1. I think it's going to be a tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if we went a goal down. But I think I just think we've got a bit about us, particularly in the bigger games. We seem to be more up for it than say the smaller ones. I think it's the games against the slightly lesser teams where we've actually struggled more this season. Against the better teams we've actually played really well. I mean, we played Spurs at the start of the season, played really well and got robbed by refereeing decisions. But yeah, in the bigger games we have turned up. The 2 games against Milan, we played really well also. So look, I think we can turn up and do well in this game. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win, but I really wouldn't be surprised if we lost, which is not a very nice thought to have. But we'll wait and see what happens. Whatever it is, it's a big game. I'd probably say it's a bigger game for Chelsea than it is for Arsenal in terms of top 4 aspirations and kind of not getting too far adrift. But let's see what happens. But yeah, guys, seems like a good point to round out. Thanks for your comments in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Guys, on your way out, please make sure you smash the likes on the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Almost at 2,000 subscribers now. So every new subscriber helps. So please help me get there. So just smash that subscribe button on the way out. Webby, thanks so much for your time, mate. Great to catch up, chat all things the game. I would say good luck, but don't really mean it. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for your time, mate. Guys, take care. Enjoy your weekend and catch you Sunday after the game for some post-match reaction. So until then, take care and up the Chelsea.